Hey, WokeNFree Nation. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice.
For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. Stop scrolling, start listening.
You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science, to Bitcoin, or even one of your favorite celebrities. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you aloud.
And they have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. Our podcast, WokeNFree, is there too.
Now let's get into the episode. Hi, it's Natasha.
And Khalil.
And we are the co-hosts of
WokeNFree.
Thank you for tuning in to our 253rd episode of WokeNFree. If you've been tuning in every week for WokeNFree Wednesday, you know that WokeNFree is all about being real and honest with each other and you. We talk about everything and anything important to us, you, the world, and nothing is off the table. This week, we're having a really heavy conversation, which is a conversation that's been happening for a while, but more recently, abortion, a moral right or something to be regulated. So before we dive deep into that, a couple of things to go over. Have you gone to WokeNFree.com to not only listen to this episode, but download it through the Podbean app? If not, please do so immediately. If you have the app, you can put in your thoughts in the comments, and we know you have thoughts on this subject. So we want to hear from you. Doesn't matter what side of the you land on, whether you agree with us, whether you are absolutely against what we have to say. We want to hear what you have to say. So make sure you do that. Now, if you listen to podcasts on a device that you cannot download more apps onto, it's okay. It's okay. It's a little upsetting, but we can get through this. First, you need to then go to WokeNFree.com, go in the Listen tab, and then you can pick your platform of choice where you're going to listen and follow our show. So we're on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play, our YouTube channel. Subscribe, please. SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora. It's a WokeNFree world, so we can't wait to see you on all the different spaces and places that we're at. On WokeNFree.com, you can also click subscribe to follow the show through the Podbean app. And on social, you can always holler on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, and LinkedIn at WokeNFree. And then if you have 90 seconds, which is not really a question, more of a statement, we would love a review of our show. We have tons of 5-star reviews. We know you want to give us some more. Thank you very much. Please go to WokeNFree.com, go on the Listen tab, and then pick your platform of choice where you want to review the show at. And with that, I'm going to kick it to you, Khalil.
And before we start, we're going to actually share a little bit about ourselves. This week, we're asking, would you rather swing on a porch swing or a tire swing?
Hell of a question, given what we're going to talk about today, but okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to select the porch swing because I don't feel like a tire swing seems very interesting. And it also makes me wonder, like, are there creatures or insects within the tire? So that just seemed really confusing.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, so I couldn't really
You bring up a good thing because
couldn't go there.
I don't know if you've ever even seen a tire swing.
No, I've not in New York City.
Well, I've seen it in New York City, in Queens specifically.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, people have that in their backyard.
Fascinating.
But one thing is true is when it rains, the water gets stuck in there, and then it can get nice and nasty.
Like mold?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it wasn't that moldy, but it was kind of like green stuff starts growing in there. Ugh. You get mossy and stuff.
Yeah,
because it's aired out because it's so the tire is not like wrapped around anything. It's just a tire, literally just a tire. But the water will sit in the little pockets, and then things can grow in it.
It's gross.
So that's the only thing with the tire swing. But the tire swing is kind of fun because you hang it and it can go in different directions. Compared to the porch swing, you go back and forward. So. For me, I gotta go with the tire.
Because you could have more fun.
It's because of the raw potential of it. You can do so much with it. And then I also like that I think of it as like a practical use of something that's old. Instead of just melting it down or something, you can actually reuse it. So I think that's rather handy. So for me, I go with pro tire.
Okay.
And
you're pro-tire.
Yeah.
Nice.
That you may not be pro-tire, so you're anti-tire is
Lovely.
what some people would call that.
Lovely.
And some people also can call that anti-choice.
Oh, my.
I would rather not say anti or any of that stuff. What I'd want to get into is, if we talk about a topic that's even more serious than swing versus porch, we got to talk about, are you pro-life or pro-choice?
Nice, interesting transition there. Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, let's just dive all the way deep in
all right,
there.
so maybe we could jump into even more.
Yes, exactly. So since Roe v. Wade was overturned by the Supreme Court, and that has pretty much rocked our nation and every woman in this nation, feeling very at odds. I'm sure, regardless of where you sit on it, it's opening up new conversations that haven't been had maybe in your household or in your setting or your families or friends circle, and one would have to, argue or question, is abortion something that is a moral right, or is this something that should be regulated?
Well, the thing is, when it comes to abortion, I don't think the government should be in charge of what women choose to do with their body, be it if it's a state or if it's a national thing. To me, it should be a moral choice, actually. You should, you got to decide for yourself, because the thing that comes up, and that no one's proven it, is that at what point do we call this thing growing inside you a human? Because we don't call it, when the two cells come together and the embryo's fertilized, is that a human? And then some people will say, all right, once that happens, once they come together, that is a human, and you got to save that human at all costs. But, to me, there's no way to really prove that, because is it truly a human, or is it kind of like the tadpoles, or not a tadpole per se, but with other animals, when they first have cells that come together,
like a zygote,
it doesn't resemble the actual thing. Is it truly that? Because of course, after a certain amount of time, I think most people will agree that you can't do
there's
abortion.
Different stages of the pregnancy, and
so
there have been, to
go into that is just something else. But to say, at conception, is to say that's a human. I don't know if the government should be able to decide that or make that choice for you, because that's what's going to happen now, is that now states can decide, hey, that you can't do that here. And to me, that's crazy. It's not that sort of thing for them to be judging, basically. So
there's some really good information just to get everyone up to speed on Roe v. Wade in the event that you aren't necessarily familiar. VirginiaMercury.com had some really interesting information. So let's kind of just do a little deep dive into history. So in 1973, Roe v. Wade was a case that stemmed from a Texas woman who was being unable to access an abortion in her home state. The decision by the Supreme Court was 7-2, where Justice Harry Blackmun wrote that the right to an abortion stemmed from the right to privacy under the 14th Amendment, but the court ruled that a woman's fundamental right to terminate her pregnancy must be weighed against the government's interest in protecting health and potential life. Interesting. Then the court established a trimester framework that determined when and how governments could impose regulations on abortion access. And then in 1992, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, another Supreme Court case where it was a 5-4 ruling, where the court upheld a constitutional right to an abortion, so reaffirming Roe v. Wade at that time, but that the decision overturned the trimester framework, instead setting viability, right? When is a baby viable outside the human body or the woman's body? About 22 to 24 weeks into a pregnancy, as the line for government regulation. The court said a woman had a right to an abortion before viability without undue interference from the government. After reaching a point of viability, states can regulate abortion as long as it doesn't affect health or life. And in the plurality opinion, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor wrote that some of us as individuals find abortion offensive to our most basic principles of morality, but that cannot control our decision. Our obligation is to define the liberty of all, not to mandate our own moral code. And I thought that statement by Justice Sandra Day O'Connor is exactly what is going on. By the overturning of Roe v. Wade, it seems like we are regulating, or there's governmental interference in a space of morality as opposed to a space of justice and liberty for all, which is what we should be speaking to.
That's
right.
But that, I mean, you open yourself up to argument there because who's all? Does all mean a 1 week old, zygote or whatever?
Well, like the court talked about the viability, right? So prior to viability, there was, a woman had no undue issues up until recently, of course. And then after point of viability, so 22,
but is viability considered now?
Life, where they can live outside the
but is that considered? That's when you get liberty, is when you become viable. Before you're viable, you have no liberty.
I mean, we have to dive into more case law to really, I don't know if that has been absolutely stated at the Supreme Court.
Because that's the only problem with, I like that statement, but you're still, the problem is when is a person a person?
Well,
that's the question.
What's at issue is also that, we go so hard and so diligent on this, viability and saving babies, but where do we stand as a nation on war? It seems like we're okay killing life at different stages. Point, though, yeah. And then
who's there to support the life, though?
What's that? Executions in prisons. We're okay killing.
Death penalty.
Death penalty. Yeah, we're okay killing people at different stages, but when we get in that beginning stage, it seems very contentious.
I guess it's a belief of it's a belief of justified death.
Well, again,
kind of
we're regulating morality, and
we're saying if you can justify death, then it's okay.
Why is that okay? Why is it so blatantly acceptable to kill people once they're children and up, kind of a thing? But at that early stage, wait a minute, we have all these conversations, all these debates, and people get all up in arms around this scenario when it's like, is life? Or is life more meaningful in the beginning?
I just think it's funny, anybody that wants to abolish abortion, they don't want to make sure these children are cared for and being healthy and getting all the education and knowledge they deserve, and they're protected.
Exactly.
They're here. They don't care. Also, they're just like, fend for yourself, figure it out. Your parents.
Well, we're putting it in the hands of our legislators, of our state government. And
I don't like that.
Becomes problematic because we are 50 states of the United States, but we do not think in unison. So that means that if you live in Alaska, you're going to have different rights than, say, someone in Arizona or someone in Colorado versus someone in Mississippi, Florida. Again, why is that the case? Shouldn't womanhood and the protection of bodily autonomy be the same in every state, in every country, in every land? Why is that something that's subject to regulation? So to answer the overall question we can't
speak for country.
is I agree with you. I believe bodily autonomy is morality, has nothing to do with local government, federal government, or anything in between or beyond.
I think that's the biggest problem I find is that the people that are pro-choice are conservative, but they're for less government interference. But is this not government interference at its highest?
Direct government interference. It's literally saying you can't do something with your body unless someone else approves that.
Because I would understand people getting mad if they said, abortions have to be funded by the government.
And that's absolutely.
None of that's being said, though.
It's not about,
to me is crazy.
Funding this.
Why do they want the government? They need to, what you want to do. If you want people to stop doing abortions, you need to go and just talk to people and spread your word of that. You shouldn't try to use government interference.
If you want to stop abortions, then can we stop child molestation and rape, where children are getting impregnated by their fathers, by their uncles, and they are going to now potentially be forced to have a child of rape. So and have incest.
Those extreme cases definitely should be allowed to abortion, but if you look at the numbers, those are like really small percentages.
Minuscule probably compared to the overall
of who's actually doing it. But
still, why it's like we're splitting hairs on something that shouldn't even be regulated. Yeah. Right? This is a space where bodily autonomy should never have governmental interference. Because if you're saying that I can't do anything I want with my body, then I think are opening up a conversation that I don't know because to what end? Does that mean now if I want a boob job, if I want a BBL, now potentially are we arguing that Why does it just stop with babies? Is it possible to start regulating other forms?
They should ban all cigarettes because secondhand smoke kills people and causes cancer.
That might cause too much people to lose money. So,
but that's because our government is controlled by corporations. That's the only reason that one's not.
And then and
to me that's crazy, right?
It's interesting you bring that because why not? Why punish people? Why not incentivize people? Others. So kind of like if you don't want folks to get abortions, then for folks who don't get abortions, maybe you give them a monetary incentive,
a stimulus.
If that is if the concern is so grave on saving human life, which is questionable at best. Because other things happening in our world would suggest otherwise. Why go down punitive measures? Why not incentivize? So it's a lot to think about.
Why do you think Roe v. Wade was overturned?
I think that we have more conservative folks on the Supreme Court who are interested in being able to regulate and create laws and regulation around morality, because typically, you can't speak for everyone, but typically when we have more conservative thought, even though to your point earlier that they're saying they want less governmental restriction, it also seems like there's more of a scrutiny of more
but conservatives also like to enforce their morals on others.
So it's kind of like there's more judgment and there's more scrutiny. Typically, you can't speak for, there's always outliers, but it seems like that's the direction that we're going, and it's not as a consensus as America that folks feel like, yes, everyone should have an abortion. I think as shared on brookings.edu, that roughly 25 and 35% of Americans think that abortion should always be legal, but that's not even 75%. That's a really low number. That number kind of shocked me. And that,
but you said always be legal, meaning, does that mean up to term even?
Probably, which I know people then.
I mean, that's pretty high, then people are going to say, wait a minute, what are you doing here?
And then 10 to 15% think it should never be legal, which is interesting. And then remaining 50 to 65% are split between those who think it should be mostly legal with some exceptions and mostly illegal with exceptions. So we are a split nation. We don't have consensus of thought on bodily autonomy. And that's really concerning. And I think that that's reflected in our Supreme Court. And again, we have to take a deeper look at what is the true interest we're trying to protect, and why does that need to come at the stake or the punishment of women? Why are women and women autonomy and bodily autonomy being attacked currently?
There's a lot of theories about that. I'll bet you the one, I'm not saying it's true or not, but some people, I forgot, it comes from a book. Some people think that the abortion was overturned because a lot of white females are aborting their children. And there's a thought that if that happens continuously, that white people will become the minority in America. So,
but that's happening no matter what.
I know, that's why the theory so abortion doesn't really stand.
Unless this numbers, I have to look into the numbers, but I don't think abortion is rapidly reducing white.
Why it's not even
birth rates in the nation.
I don't think it's a true. It's not really a true thing, because if you actually look, abortions are actually going down year over year. The number of abortions and the percentage of abortions per birth. All the numbers are decreasing. Isn't that kind of crazy when you think of it?
Well, we have more babies, though. So more people.
No, but I'm saying even the percentage, though. I'm saying the percentage of women that want to do it. And now it'll probably go down even more, though, right? Would Roe v. overturn? So it'll probably go down. But even when it was legal, it was still going down. That's what's funny.
Yeah.
And so people weren't actually using it as much.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Now, what I found was from this website, National Catholic Register, and they listed some reasons that they feel that Roe v. Wade didn't hold water. And this is the first, that the Constitution makes no reference to abortion.
Okay.
So excellent. I know there's people that are very constitutionalist in nature.
And the Constitution doesn't speak to electric cars, so
it doesn't mention a lot of stuff, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So that was their one.
Nice.
Next, abortion is not deeply rooted in this nation's history and tradition. But Wi-Fi is not either. But I know.
Correct.
It does mention this,
old school rhetoric doesn't apply because there's a lot of things that have happened there after.
I know, it's a good one.
It's moot.
Abortion is fundamentally different than the subjects of related court decisions because it involves the taking of a life. So see, that's a thing that this is people will get you on this talking point. And how does that
differ from death penalty? Is that not also the taking of life?
Yeah.
And haven't the Supreme Court spoken on that as well?
So they would try to go on that. It's that justified thing.
I know,
you justify,
it is, yeah.
like people are okay when you could justify taking a life, right? It's so crazy.
Criminal or not valuable or worthy, it's okay to kill you. But if you're potential life is somehow more. Because
remember, so if there's a person that needs to be rescued from a flood and there's a dog that needs to be rescued, most people are rescuing the dog because the dog is considered innocent. The person, you got to ask questions. Well, like, is he a criminal? If I rescue him, will this person harm me?
Such a challenging.
But it's messed up because sometimes you rescue somebody and then they stick you up for your cash, right? So it's like, what are you doing? So see how people do this kind of stuff?
So interesting. Maybe there's, a higher pedestal for innocent life.
Yeah.
But again,
because innocent life doesn't harm you.
We're not just talking about innocent life. We're also talking about the woman for which it is carried within. And so it'd be different if we were talking about all external and things floating out in the world, but this is an innocent life within someone else, and that life still has to be considered and honored.
So they would argue, we're not talking about extreme cases again, but they would argue that contraceptives work. Some people would argue that.
You are now listening to
WokeNFree.
WokeNFree. WokeNFree.
WokeNFree.
A podcast that keeps it real and honest.
I'm just saying.
It's so frustrating.
So this is why this is not going to ever. I mean, I can't see this.
We're going to be having these conversations for a long time. The fight is.
I don't know how you win
this battle, but the war is not over.
It's
absolutely not.
It's a very interesting situation.
Yeah,
abortion.
It's a really tragic situation. As a woman, I'm heartbroken learning about Roe v. Wade in law school, I would have never in 1,000 years thought, wow, we're going to overturn it. I mean, I'm just heartbroken.
But here's there needs to just be a law put in place, that like a literal law written that says, abortion is legal.
Yeah.
And it's a protected thing to do.
Bodily autonomy is federally protected.
Even if they want to say
state.
they might want to say, it's got to be like, it can't be past a certain amount of weeks, whatever, but there actually needs to be like a codified law that says abortion, because that's the problem. These court cases.
So if Biden is listed, that's you, sir.
Anybody can step up to that point. Yeah, it needs to it needs to be a law. But Biden can't.
Kamala Harris,
but the problem is, remember, all he can do is he can talk to Congress and tell them to write the law, and he can sign it. But he can't just write a law. He could do executive order, but that doesn't stand. But we really need a law put in place. Correct. So that's our representatives and, then here we go senators
again, debating, it's the.
I know they wouldn't want to do it because the conservatives conservatives don't want the federal government to make laws. They hate that. They want their states to decide. But then they love it because their states are going to say screw everybody over.
It's too frustrating.
But it really needs to be a federal law. And the other thing that they were mentioning on here is that thanks to Roe, women's voices on abortion have not been heard. I don't know what that means, but it mentioned that. I think it went into some detail, but we'll just go over it. And then next thing is states have legitimate interests in regulating abortion.
Of course they do.
I guess, because they want to get their morals across.
Exactly.
Roe's reasoning was exceedingly weak.
So, the constitutional right to privacy from 14th Amendment. Okay.
And then state consensus on abortion existed before Roe. And what do you think?
No, because the woman wasn't able to get the abortion in Texas, which means that Texas probably at the time was not the only state that was giving people a hard time. So, no.
And then the last was the Supreme Court can't settle the abortion debate, but legislators may.
See how that doesn't make sense? It's like it's not our buck, it's someone else's buck. Like the buck doesn't pass to anyone else but the woman carrying the baby. She has the decision. I'm not even going to speak on like my thoughts on abortion. I mean, obviously, if you listen to the show, I'm a liberal, so I'm all about doing what you need to do for yourself. So that's where I sit with it. But regardless of where you sit on the subject, how can you ever argue that someone doesn't have a right to do that, to do something with their own body, as long as it is not killing?
Because it harms something else. It harms a life. That's why you can say it.
But you're saying that her life is less significant than the baby she's carrying? Is that what we're arguing? That women's life is not as meaningful as potential life?
Well, no, but it's not saying that because it's not like if you didn't get the abortion, you would die. But
what if that's the case? What if a woman who was forced to have a baby causes her to kill herself?
So that's why no matter what, people would know there has to be even exceptions to ban on abortion because there's reason
should have the determination and the autonomy to be able to decide what they want to do with their body, how they want to do it, when they want to do it, and where they want to do it.
So that's why you can't. I mean, no matter where you stand, I don't think anybody who says abortion outright needs to be banned and never happened. That's crazy. That's like the dumbest thing. Like I gotta call you dumb because
that's productive though, Khalil.
But it's true because there's extreme cases where you wanted to have to do it. Well, if it's gonna kill the woman, she should be allowed to have it. Because then you don't make sense. You don't have it for.
But either way, this is not something that should be discussed between legislators or Supreme Court. It doesn't. This is what does she want to do, and there you go.
I mean, it's a hard thing.
So now that Roe v. Wade was overturned, what's going to happen now?
I think all that's going to happen is that, some of these states are going to now ban abortion. They might do like a whole outright ban of it, or they may have just very strict regulation of it. And what it'll do is it's going to force people to travel to other states where abortion will always be legal. All the blue states, basically. So you can go up and down the west and east coast and abortion all you want. But if you go in the middle of the country or to some southern places, you're going to have some issues. So it's another thing that's going to happen is I think there's just going to be some people are going to travel, but we got to admit what's really going to happen. The people that don't travel and stay in their state, they're just going to find people who do abortions off the books.
Yeah, that's not a lie. Like how it used to happen where women were having these illegal procedures and they were getting sick and they were dying and having horrible situations happening. It's because
these doctors aren't going to just be like,
if
all right,
these walls could talk. Has anyone seen that great film with Cher? I mean, what is going on?
So that's what I think the problem with the ban is pretty stupid because people that want abortions, they're still going to do it.
Of course, you don't stop abortion. What you stop is a safe abortion.
Yeah.
Right. But people are still going to throw themselves down steps. They're still going to do all sorts of great toxic things.
You're saying all that, but I think people are still going to get doctors that will perform their abortions.
Oh yeah, probably.
They're just not going to advertise it.
And so now they're going to get that cash.
Yeah, so they might put onto they might just write doctor's checkup or whatever, and it's not really that. See, they could lie about that really easily.
Nuts.
So that's why it's not really going to have the effect that the people that wanted to have. It's not really going to go like they think. So this is crazy. But like I said, we really need a law about this. We need to just kind of squash this for
it's sad that that's the case because like I said, I just don't think
people's rights.
It shouldn't even be,
really?
But sure, as long as it's something that could never be overturned, as long as it's something
all laws can be challenged.
See, that's why I'm saying
that we live in that country.
Regulating something that is not a regulable thing,
but you gotta try. If having a law is better than having just a court case,
of course,
be overturned
it's
by
another
just
level of
so easily
support and security. But to what end? And when we have a new change in government, does that now mean that's all? It's
they can challenge it. It's just harder.
Anxiety and pressure for women. So it's deeply disappointing. I mean, a recent New York Times article shares the following. So again, just to reiterate, Roe v. Wade being overturned, does that mean that abortion has become illegal in everywhere in the United States? Absolutely not. It just means now the individual states will have to decide whether and when abortions will be legal. Many states will continue to allow them, and then some even have begun making provisions to help serve women who live in states that are likely to restrict abortion. Now, the Center for Reproductive Rights, a group that fights abortion restrictions in court and closely tracks state laws, says 25 states are likely to ban abortion. Those states include Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, Nebraska, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. And
Pennsylvania seems surprising. I mean, we'll see.
I know. We'll see if their prediction is right. They also say that essentially abortion will remain legal in about half of the states, but the rest, like I said, will be banned. And then essentially the number of abortions will probably fall particularly among poor women in the South and the Midwest. So again, who is this really hurting? Poor folks, people of color, disenfranchised,
number of safe abortions.
Safe abortions, marginalized people who are already dealing with a whole host of issues. So yay government, yay court system, yay America. Really messing up right now.
He's so messing up.
Like, guys jacking up stuff that doesn't, I mean, is there nothing else that needed to be discussed or challenged in this country? I mean, I'm sorry, is homelessness not enough of a problem that needs to be solved? Is the fact that we still have so many people under the poverty line something not compelling enough to work on? But no, let's challenge women's lives. Let's really make a problem out of nothing. Like, it's
yeah, because I mean, so to even be up in arms about it, it's not like abortion was on the rise or anything. So it is a weird timing
it just
for it to come about.
Bizarre.
Because maybe if people said, "Oh no, look, I mean, our birth rates are a lot less than our abortion rates," then you got to think about.
Are people not like COVID isn't gone away? We have this monkeypox. I mean, is there not enough going on in this world? Like,
I think that's my biggest problem with the ban on abortion. It's like it's not enough people really doing it for it even to be an issue.
This is just absurd.
That's the thing. It doesn't really need a law to ban it.
I would just say is if you are a person who's feeling very challenged and upset about the situation, we are feeling very challenged and upset with you, and we encourage you to use your voice to fight against what's going on and to also demand more of your local legislators, because now that this is with the states, we now need to be closely in step with our local government and our state representatives, because these are the people who are literally impacting what you can do with your body. So ladies, we feel you and we support you, and deeply sorry that this is happening. This is absurd.
Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario? It's scenario time, guys. Scenario 1. Sankara thinks that it's great that Roe v. Wade was overturned because she thinks it helped for black women to kill their offspring. Do you agree with her point of view?
So again, this is a really interesting scenario in that we are looking at someone's personal bias, their own personal beliefs, and saying, yay, let's have something regulated that is in alignment with your personal belief system, which in reality is not going to be appropriate for the whole of the nation. Regardless of where you sit on abortion, whether you support it or not support it, what is the overall need and justice for the people of this land? That is what is, and specifically we're talking about for women. So what is most appropriate for all women to have rights and access to? It doesn't matter if you are against it. Good for you. Do you. Whatever your beliefs are on that, that is you. But what do all women need to have right and access to? They need to have bodily autonomy. And so, I would encourage her to really think about what is she trying to protect, and if she is deeply concerned about black women fertility and black women having offspring, then she should invest her time and resources in supporting black women having support for when they have children, because as we know, as marginalized communities in both categories, women and black women do suffer and do need support when they have children. So if she's so deeply concerned, my question to her would be, what are you doing to support black women who currently are having children, as opposed to the future potential life that she's so deeply concerned about?
Yeah, I mean, I think her point of view is crazy to me, because she's trying to say that these black women having abortions, it's really it's killing off all these black people, but that's not the biggest cause of death for black people. So I don't think this is a real stance to have, to say, since it's overturned now, we're going to have a lot more black people and our numbers are going to grow. Not really, because there's other things that's actually taking us out, and it's definitely not the abortions that's doing it. So this is not a Black Lives Matter thing here. This is not what it's referring to, because abortions aren't killing that. They're not taking away that much potential black life. Like, let's be honest, there's not that many.
And either way, to be honest, if those lives were meant to live, don't you be alive? Don't you think they would be? It's like, do people not understand the reality of life? Everything
That's why
happens
there's such a contradiction
for a reason.
Yeah,
if those babies were meant to live, they would live.
They say that, but they're like, no, they don't practice that. They don't practice that thought. A lot of the people that
so irritating
have the beliefs like that. Yeah, so it's interesting. Scenario 2. Monisha says that only a few women are in need of abortion due to sexual violence and believes that people need to practice safe sex to prevent pregnancy. Do you think using contraceptives would reduce the needs of abortion?
Well, I am not a doctor nor am I a medical professional, but according to what my understanding of sexual engagement and entanglements, yes, I have come to understand that if you use contraceptives appropriately and accurately and effectively, then one would be preventing pregnancy in the future. However, as we all know, when people are bumping and grinding, sometimes, just sometimes, not everyone is like, hey, hold on, do you have a condom? Or, hey, do you have
and they get a
dental dam? Or, whatever the different
if you use an expired condom?
Correct. The ones that disintegrate when you put your thing in there. Like, disintegrate.
Yeah,
So, there are scenarios where people are having unprotected
or you lose
sex.
lambskin.
I can't speak on that. Nope.
Because there's different types people try to get.
Correct. Yep.
And you're supposed to not use certain types.
Or you poke a hole in it. It's all sorts of different situations that can be happening. Like I said, you don't use it correctly. You don't have one at all. Am I advocating for unprotected sex? Absolutely not. There's a lot of bad stuff that can happen when that happens. So please, please, please do have protected sex as much as possible. But it's not consistently happening across the board. So, that statement of like, well, if you just had a condom, well, it's kind of like, yeah, well, if you weren't looking at your phone and driving, maybe you'd still be alive today. Sure. But these things do happen in this world. So, okay. Like, and what? What are your thoughts?
So my thoughts this is definitely a true statement, but like you said, it's too hard to actually put this into practice for a lot of people, because if you're getting in the mood and then someone's like, oh, grab the condom, or, oh, you taking the pill, it's okay, or all this stuff got to go on. You really need a contraceptive where you just, once you two touch, like, it just is activated. It's like something you wear.
Is covered in.
Yeah, but no, it's once you touch somebody, it activates. It's almost like a superhero suit, and it just covers all your stuff up.
Like, all sorts of weird images are coming
in
my body.
But it covers your body in like a fluid, though.
Oh, God.
So it's like a fluid that makes you feel.
So how are your things touching each other then?
But, I mean, technically, you always want a fluid. Yeah, it's a fluid that can go internal.
I can't.
I mean, maybe it should be stored internally and externally for the, for the wielder. Because it could cover the John up, with the fluid.
Oh, gosh.
And then it can go internal. No, but I'm just saying, the contraceptives are it's like so much of a hassle. Like, let's be honest, a lot of people are using it as a hassle, and it doesn't feel the same.
I always think it's very funny when I go to...
That's the problem.
Who asked me? Yeah, I guess the OBGYN, where they're like, are you having unprotected sex? And it's like...
I'd ask that to a married person.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Like, a lot of married people have unprotected. I don't know what to
I mean,
say.
I guess we should look up what percentage of married people have protected sex.
What kind of? I don't know what.
It must be like 1%.
Maybe we didn't read the right book on marriage.
1% of married couples have protected sex.
Maybe it's 95%.
It's impossible. You know why? Because there's people that don't even believe in using contraceptives.
I find the question to just be kind of like, what? Like, why are you up in my uterus?
Because did you know that there's people, there's people that don't believe in contraceptives at all. You can't use it.
God bless them.
You're supposed to let what happens. That's God's gift.
I hope that they also enjoy STD, AIDS, and all of that good stuff then, because and the problem is you have that belief, but does everyone you're sleeping with also share that belief system? Because sometimes you might have that belief, but again, that was a different agreement that was made with your sexual partners. Yeah. So that's really, really challenging.
And then I guess another thing to bring up is that there are people that are married and they use contraceptive when they're trying to avoid having a child, kind of thing.
Correct. Yep.
Oh, but I guess See, when you're thinking protected, I mean, it does. If you're saying a condom, that'd be weird still for married people. I would think that you would take a pill that makes, be like, wow, so you're married
and you still don't trust nobody. Like, you'd be like, I don't know where you are.
Yeah, the condom would be weird, but there's other contraceptives you could take. Because now, there's pills for men and women that you could take to make
for you. I think y'all should be on stuff, yeah.
They have pills for men. They got different pills for everybody. And they also have
vasectomies. They have wonderful things.
A sex museum? What? Oh, I mean, yeah, you can.
There are sex museums, and they are wonderful places.
Yeah, you could do a procedure. Yeah, I mean,
if y'all want to be regulating us, then we should be regulating y'all.
Might be an expensive procedure to do.
And what if it's covered for free?
No, that's definitely not.
And it's reversible.
It is, but why would you want to do all that when you can?
Because y'all up in our uterus, so we need to be all up in your.
The pill would be better. That's why they have a pill. The pill for both people. So either one could take it, man or woman. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really. It just depends on what you want to do. Mm-hmm. Scenario 3: Neoma has siblings that were in the army. Her dad also works at a Planned Parenthood part-time. She thinks it's hypocritical to be pro-life and pro-war. Can you believe these ideas? Or the exact opposite and not be a hypocrite?
Yeah, see, this is a really challenging space to be in. I absolutely personally do support bodily autonomy, whatever that means for women. But I am anti-war because I think that there's so much tragedy that happens when we do have war. It's not just I'm going to war to win whatever the mission is, but it's also like, hey, there's somehow folks getting raped and murdered and abused, and there's just, I don't know how I can wrap my mind around that, but yet I easily can be like, oh, you want an abortion? High five. So it is hypocritical, but so much of life is very much juxtaposed to each other, and so you kind of live in this confusing space where there's nuances, right? That's why they say life is not just black and white, there's the gray. And I think when it comes to life and death, very much is a gray matter.
Okay, wow. Yeah, I mean, to me, they definitely, they stand at odds when you believe that in one case, life needs to be protected, mm-hmm. but in the other case, life doesn't. And vice versa with people mm-hmm. that say, hey, women should be able to kill the potential life. But hey, don't go to war either because, mm-hmm. You're killing life there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that you can just, have the same stance on these two topics because they're a little bit different. That's the thing.
It is. Yeah.
It's how you look at it in your mind. But if you took it and put it on its most basic level, they're definitely they're definitely at ends with each other. So mm-hmm. you could be called a hypocrite for believing those ideas at the same time. Yeah. And I think that most people do believe those. That's what's mm-hmm. funny. Like one goes with the other because the more liberal you are, the more likely you're going to be for people's choice, but also you're going to be against war, though. So
correct.
It's interesting.
It is very interesting. And again, we reiterate that everyone is entitled to their belief systems. All that we ask, especially when you tune in every single week for WokeNFree Wednesdays, is we encourage you to flex and expand how you view things, because even us, we are forced to kind of confront our own ideology on different topics. So we just ask you to do the same so that you can continue to grow and really evolve and hopefully be able to make a difference in whatever industry or whatever aspect or contribution you can make to this world.
Yeah.
So with that, it looks like we're at that time again. It's coming to the end of our 253rd episode of
WokeNFree.
Quite the episode discussing abortion, a moral right or something to be regulated. Khalil, what do folks need to do now?
Come back next week for the new WokeNFree Wednesday episode. Make sure you follow us on social media to follow along the conversation, and make sure you tune in next week for WokeNFree Wednesday to join the conversation at WokeNFree.com.
If you'd like to be a guest on our show, we're pretty much packed up for this year, but definitely can take in considerations for 2023 because before you know it, we will be there. So what do you have to do? You contact us on our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. That's WokenFree.com. On social, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, and LinkedIn at WokeNFree. And for all sponsorship or collaborations, queries, all that good jazz, again, hit us up on our Contact Us page at WokenFree.com.
If you didn't already subscribe, please do share the episode and make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for WokeNFree Wednesdays. Remember, WokeNFree is more than a podcast. It is a way of life. Till next time.